John sat in his luxurious office, a pinnacle of his successful career in the corporate world. The mahogany desk, plush leather chair, and floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a breathtaking view of the city were testaments to his achievements. Yet, as he gazed at the sleek skyscrapers that pierced the sky, he couldn't shake the emptiness that gnawed at his soul. The TV mounted on the wall displayed images of a far-off land mired in an unfathomable humanitarian crisis. He watched in silence, transfixed by the heart-wrenching scenes of suffering children and desperate families. The contrast between his opulent surroundings and the images on the screen couldn't have been starker. For weeks, he couldn't get those images out of his mind. The urge to make a meaningful impact on the world grew stronger with each passing day. He knew he couldn't continue living his life of opulence while so many others suffered. It was as though a dormant seed had been watered, and the roots of a profound mission began to take hold. John resolved to act, to break free from the confines of his comfortable life and embrace a journey that transcended borders and preconceived notions of success. The announcement of John's decision to leave behind his career and embark on a humanitarian mission left his family and friends in a state of shock. They couldn't fathom why a man who had everything, a loving family, financial security, and a thriving career, would willingly walk away from it all. His wife, Sarah, was torn between admiration for his selflessness and overwhelming fear for his safety. Their children, too young to fully comprehend the complexities of the world, were bewildered by their father's decision. Over dinners, family gatherings, and intimate conversations, John tried to articulate the force that had compelled him to take this path. He explained the profound sense of duty he felt, the need to give back and make a difference in the world. It was a calling that transcended the comforts and conveniences he had grown accustomed to. But, in the process, he watched the support he had always taken for granted crumble. As he packed his bags, prepared to leave behind the life he'd known, John was filled with a sense of isolation that he had never felt before. The weight of his decision hung heavy in the air, and the path ahead appeared long and arduous. The moment John arrived in the war-torn region, the enormity of the crisis struck him with a visceral intensity. The images he had seen on television were a mere fraction of the suffering that engulfed the region. Dilapidated buildings bore the scars of conflict, and the air was thick with despair. Everywhere he looked, people lived in squalor, their lives upended by violence and uncertainty. John quickly connected with local aid organizations, whose unwavering commitment to alleviating suffering was both humbling and inspiring. He was no longer an outsider, he was a part of a community of individuals who had dedicated their lives to making a difference. The work was far from glamorous. It involved distributing food, providing medical supplies, and offering a helping hand to those who had lost everything. But in these acts of kindness, John found a sense of purpose he had never known before. As the days turned into weeks, the bonds John formed with the local volunteers deepened. They weren't just colleagues, they were friends bound by a shared purpose. In the midst of dire circumstances, laughter and tears were shared, as they witnessed both the cruelty of the world and the resilience of the human spirit. Their work went beyond the tangible provisions they offered. John sat with survivors, listening to their stories of loss and hope. He met children who had witnessed unspeakable horrors yet still had the capacity to smile. He marveled at the strength and perseverance of a community that had endured hardship beyond imagination. The experiences of sharing stories and offering solace were as important as the supplies they distributed. John had become more than a foreign aid worker, he had become a part of the community he was serving. The journey was far from a linear progression of success. The team faced relentless obstacles on their path. Political turmoil, bureaucratic hurdles, and logistical challenges stood as formidable barriers. Personal danger was a constant shadow, lurking just beyond the horizon. In the darkest hours, when exhaustion threatened to overtake them, John grappled with doubt. The enormity of the crisis made him question whether their efforts were ever enough. He wondered if they were truly making a difference in the face of such overwhelming suffering. In those moments of despair, John had to dig deep to find the strength to carry on. He drew upon the resilience of the local community and the unwavering support of his fellow volunteers. It was during these trying times that his commitment to the mission was forged into steel. Despite the immense difficulties, there came a moment when the team began to see the fruits of their labor. Children who had once known only hunger and fear began to exhibit smiles of genuine happiness. Families who had been torn apart by the conflict were slowly but surely being reunited. John's dedication became a source of inspiration to those around him. Word of their mission spread, and the international community took notice. Support began to pour in from all corners of the world. John was both overwhelmed and humbled by the knowledge that their actions were part of something much larger than themselves. The mission was no longer just about delivering food and medical supplies, it was about spreading hope and love to those who had been forgotten by the world. With one mission successfully completed, John's path led him to another crisis-stricken country. The challenges he encountered were different, the culture and circumstances unfamiliar, but his unwavering determination remained a constant. In each new place, John had to adapt to a unique set of challenges. He learned to navigate local customs, build connections with the community, and understand the complex dynamics at play. His journey was becoming a tapestry of diverse experiences, all woven together by the common thread of his mission to alleviate human suffering. The world was vast and filled with pockets of pain and hardship, and John was determined to leave no stone unturned in his pursuit of making a difference. The experiences of his humanitarian mission had not only transformed John's outlook but had profoundly changed him as a person. He had become more empathetic, more attuned to the simple joys of life, and more aware of the deep connections he formed with others. In the quiet moments, amidst the chaos of the crisis zones, John reflected on the purpose and meaning of his mission. It was no longer a quest to simply provide aid, it was an endeavor to show love and compassion in the face of adversity. His mission had become a testament to the enduring strength of the human spirit. As he sat under the starry skies of a foreign land, John realized that the man he had been before this journey was gone, replaced by a version of himself that was wiser, more compassionate, and deeply committed to making a lasting impact. Balancing life on the front lines of a crisis and maintaining connections with loved ones back home was a constant struggle. The months turned into years, and John's frequent absence took a toll on his family. Calls and video chats offered a glimpse of his life abroad, but they were no substitute for his physical presence. Sarah, his wife, struggled to be both mother and father to their children, dealing with their questions about where their father was and when he would return. The strain on their relationship was undeniable, and the guilt of not being there for his family weighed heavily on John. At the same time, he faced the challenges of maintaining personal relationships with friends who could hardly relate to the gravity of his experiences. The need to find a balance between his life as a humanitarian and his responsibilities as a husband and father was a constant, emotional tightrope walk. One day, a major crisis unfolded, pushing John and his team to their limits. The situation deteriorated rapidly, and their mission was on the brink of failure. In the midst of the chaos, they were confronted with a moral dilemma that would force them to make a heart-wrenching decision. The weight of this decision bore heavily on John's shoulders. He understood that whatever path they chose would forever change the course of their mission. The stakes were higher than they had ever been, and the consequences of their decision would be far-reaching. The lives of those they had pledged to help hung in the balance, and the weight of that responsibility was crushing. The decision they made would become a defining moment in John's journey, a moment that would test the very core of his beliefs. John's actions continued to inspire people around the world. His experiences, shared through books, documentaries, and speaking engagements, became a beacon of hope for those who believed in the power of individual action. He had become a symbol of the notion that one person could make a difference, even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges. The network of volunteers and supporters grew, expanding far beyond the borders of the countries he had served. It was no longer just John's mission, it was a global movement of compassion and solidarity. As he traveled from one engagement to another, sharing his stories and experiences, he realized that the impact of their work extended far beyond the immediate crisis. It had created a ripple effect, touching the lives of countless individuals who had found inspiration in his journey. After years of tireless dedication, John's journey eventually led him back to the place he had once called home. As he walked through the familiar streets of his hometown, he couldn't help but feel like a stranger in a familiar land. The man who had once been a successful businessman, deeply enmeshed in the corporate world, was now a living testament to the power of compassion and selflessness. He stood before the people who loved him, his family and friends, and shared his experiences. He spoke not of glory or personal achievements but of the faces he had seen, the stories he had heard, and the indomitable human spirit that had touched his soul. He advocated for a better understanding of global crises, urging people to look beyond borders and politics, to see the humanity that connected us all. John had found his true purpose in life, and it was a mission that transcended borders, languages, and cultural differences. It was a mission of service to humanity, a testament to the power of one individual's commitment to making the world a better place.